Fleet Admiral Thexai stood on the command deck of Eternus Bastion, his crystalline skin reflecting the blue glow of the tactical displays. Through the massive viewport, stars stretched endlessly into the dark void. For 3,000 years, this fortress had guarded the most important hyperspace junction in this part of the galaxy. Nothing had ever challenged its power. Nothing had ever dared to try. The station was enormous beyond imagination. It could house 50 million beings across its multiple levels. The outer hull gleamed with quantum armor that could stop the blast from an exploding star. Weapon platforms jutted from every surface like deadly thorns. Each gun could destroy a moon with a single shot. The shields that protected the station used technology that most species could not even understand. Thexai belonged to the Zephyrian race, the leaders of the great hegemony that ruled 12 different alien species. His people had hard shells like living crystal, and minds sharp enough to calculate hyperspace jumps without computers. They had built this empire through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Every ship that wanted to travel through this system had to pay tribute. Every captain had to bow before Zephyrian authority. The Admiral's 4 eyes scanned the sensor displays with practiced ease. Merchant vessels from a dozen worlds waited in neat lines for inspection. Their cargo holds would be searched. Their computers would be downloaded. Their crews would pay the required fees or face immediate destruction. This was how the galaxy worked. This was order. Commander Veltar, an insectoid being from the warrior caste of Kepler Prime, approached with clicking steps. His 6 arms moved, in the ritual salute before speaking. Admiral, the morning inspection schedules are complete. 17 vessels cleared for transit. 3 merchant ships detained for insufficient tribute payments. Their crews are being processed in Detention Bay 7. Thexai nodded without turning from the viewport. Processed meant interrogated, stripped of valuable information, and then sold into slavery if they could not pay their debts. It was efficient. It was profitable. It discouraged others from testing hegemony patience. "Any interesting cargo this cycle?" he asked. "The usual. Rare metals from the outer rim, genetic samples from newly discovered worlds. One ship carried what they claimed was art, but our scanners revealed hidden weapon components. The captain now understands the price of deception." The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. Art was often used to smuggle military technology between worlds. His sensors could detect even a single molecule of explosive material hidden inside a painting. The hegemony had learned every trick that lesser species might attempt. A soft chime echoed through the command center. Lieutenant Zexani, a young Zephyrian with barely formed crystal ridges, looked up from her station with confusion. "Admiral, we have a new contact emerging from deep space. Long-range sensors show a single vessel approaching from the void between spiral arms." Thexai turned slightly. Ships rarely came from that direction. The void between galaxy arms contained nothing but empty darkness and radiation that could kill most life forms. "Classification?" "Unknown, sir. The design does not match any ship in our databases. Power signature suggests primitive fusion drives. Hull appears to be basic metal construction. It is much smaller than our standard warships." The Admiral felt a flicker of interest. New species occasionally emerged from unexplored regions, though most were too primitive to pose any real concern. "Distance and approach vector? Currently 18 light hours out and closing at standard sublight speed. At current velocity, they will reach our patrol perimeter in approximately 6 hours. Thexai walked to the main tactical display. The hologram showed their sector of space with perfect detail. Eternus Bastion sat at the center like a glowing jewel, surrounded by layers of defensive platforms, patrol ships, and automated weapons. The approaching vessel appeared as a tiny red dot, moving slowly toward their domain. "Energy output analysis?" he asked. Lieutenant Zexani manipulated her. Controls. New data flowed across the screens. Fusion reactor shows approximately 40% efficiency. Their faster-than-light drive uses outdated spatial compression technology. Weapon signatures are minimal. I detect what might be chemical explosive, missiles, and some kind of kinetic projectile system. Commander Veltar clicked his mandibles in what passed for laughter among his species. Chemical explosives? What manner of barbarian still uses such primitive weapons? Our point defense systems could stop 10,000 such missiles without strain. The admiral studied the data more carefully. The ship was indeed primitive by hegemony standards. Its fusion reactor produced less energy than a small civilian transport. Its weapons would have been considered outdated 5 centuries ago. The hull showed no signs of quantum armor or defensive shields. A single shot from their lightest cannon could vaporize it completely. Scanning for additional vessels, reported another technician. Negative contacts. The vessel appears to be alone. Thexhai felt his interest fade. Another lost ship from some backward world, probably desperate refugees or merchants who had wandered too far from home. Such encounters happened several times, each year. The protocol was simple and efficient. Demand tribute. If they could pay, allow transit. If they could not pay, confiscate their ship and sell the crew. The hegemony had no patience for charity. Maintain standard alert status, he ordered. When they reach communication range, offer the standard greeting. Make them understand the situation. The hours passed quietly. The strange vessel continued its slow approach while hegemony sensors gathered every possible detail about its construction and capabilities. The ship measured roughly 800 meters in length, with a narrow hull designed for speed rather than cargo capacity. Its fusion drive left a faint trail of charged particles that indicated poor containment efficiency. Everything about it screamed of inferior technology and desperate circumstances. When the vessel finally reached communication range, Lieutenant Zexani opened a channel. Unknown vessel, you are entering Zephyrian hegemony space. State your origin, destination, and purpose. Prepare for immediate inspection and tribute assessment. The response came several minutes later as the radio waves crossed the vast distance between ships. The voice was strange, belonging to a species not found in hegemony databases. The being spoke with odd tonal patterns and used words that the translation computer struggled to process. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Colonial Navy vessel Defiant. We represent the Terran Republic and request permission for peaceful transit to the Tau Ceti system. We carry diplomatic credentials and seek to establish trade relations with civilized worlds in this region. Commander Veltar examined the translated message with amusement. Earth? Terran Republic? These names do not exist in our records. Another pathetic species that believes itself important. Thexhai nodded. He had heard similar claims thousands of times. Every primitive world thought itself the center of the universe until they encountered real power. Send the standard response. Inform them of tribute requirements. The message went out across space. Unknown vessel identifying as Defiant. You will submit to complete inspection and pay standard transit fees. The required tribute is 100,000 credits in refined antimatter or equivalent rare materials. Failure to comply will result in confiscation of your vessel and processing of your crew according to hegemony law. The admiral expected immediate surrender, or perhaps desperate pleading for mercy. Instead, the response surprised him. The alien captain's voice carried what sounded almost like sadness. Admiral Thexhai, I can see from your broadcasts that you are the commanding officer of this station. I want you to know that we came here in peace. We have no desire for conflict with your people. However, we cannot and will not submit to extortion or pay tribute for the right to travel through open space. I strongly advise you to reconsider your position. Thexhai felt his crystal skin darken with anger. This primitive creature dared to threaten him, to lecture him about space travel rights? The audacity was beyond belief. Target their engines, he commanded. Prepare to disable their vessel for boarding. It seems these humans need to learn respect for their betters. The targeting systems of Eternus Bastion came online with a deep hum that vibrated through the station's hull. Weapon platforms across the massive fortress began turning toward the small human ship. Energy built up in the graviton pulse cannons, enough power to crack a small moon gathering in their magnetic containment fields. Fleet Admiral Thexhai watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The primitive vessel called Defiant continued its slow approach, apparently unaware that death was only seconds away. These humans would learn the same lesson that thousands of other species had learned before them. The hegemony was not something to be challenged by inferior beings. "Sir, weapons are locked onto target," reported Commander Veltar. "Their primitive sensors cannot detect our targeting systems. They appear completely unaware of their situation." Lieutenant Zexani looked up from her communication station. "Admiral, we are receiving another transmission from the human vessel." "Put it through," Thexhai ordered. He wanted to hear their fear when they realized what was about to happen. Captain Sarah Chen's voice filled the command center. She spoke slowly and clearly, as if choosing each word with great care. "Admiral Thexhai, I can see that you have activated weapon systems and are targeting our ship. Before you take any action you might regret, I want to explain something about human nature. We are a peaceful species by choice, not by weakness. We prefer diplomacy to violence, trade to conquest. But we have survived for thousands of years on a world where everything tried to kill us. We learned to be very, very good at staying alive." Commander Veltar clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Is this creature actually threatening us, their single ship against our entire fortress?" The Admiral felt only contempt. Fear made beings say foolish things. This human captain was clearly desperate, trying to sound dangerous when she had no options left. "Continue the targeting sequence," he ordered. Captain Chen's voice continued. "Admiral, I am going to ask you one more time to allow us peaceful passage. We have no quarrel with your people. We do not wish to harm anyone. But if you force us to defend ourselves, the responsibility for what happens next will be entirely yours." Thexhai had heard enough. He gestured to his weapons officer. "Fire a warning shot across their bow. Let them see what real power looks like." The graviton pulse cannon discharged with a flash of brilliant blue light. The energy beam shot across space at the speed of light, passing just in front of the human ship's nose. The blast contained enough power to vaporize a city. It was designed to demonstrate the hopelessness of resistance. For a moment, there was silence. Then Captain Chen's voice returned, and now it carried a tone that Thexhai had never heard before. Not fear, not anger, but something that made his crystal skin grow cold. "I'm sorry you chose this path," she said quietly. "All stations, this is Chen. Execute Protocol 7. Light them up." The Admiral stared at the communication panel in confusion. All stations? What stations? His sensors showed only one primitive ship. Had these humans lost their minds completely? Lieutenant Zexani suddenly straightened at her sensor station. Her crystal ridges flashed with alarm colors. "Admiral, I am detecting massive sensor ghosts throughout the system. The computer is showing contacts that cannot possibly be there." "Explain," Thexhai demanded. "Sir, the system is indicating 46 additional vessels within weapons range of our station. But this is impossible. Our sensors show only empty space." Commander Veltar moved to another console, his 6 arms working frantically across the controls. "Running full spectrum analysis. The gravitational sensors are detecting mass signatures, but visual and electromagnetic scans show nothing. It is as if ships are there but invisible." The Admiral felt the first touch of uncertainty. Hegemony sensor technology was the most advanced in the galaxy. Their quantum scanners could detect a single atom moving at high speed. How could 46 ships be hiding from their systems? The answer came in the form of destruction. The first kinetic projectile struck Defensive Platform 12 without warning. There was no energy signature to detect, no missile trail to track. One moment the platform was there, bristling with weapons and shielded by quantum barriers. The next moment, it exploded in a brilliant flash as something moving at incredible speed tore through its structure like tissue paper. Alarms began screaming throughout Eternus Bastion. Red lights flashed across every console as the command center erupted into chaos. More impacts struck other defensive platforms around the station's perimeter. Each hit was precise and devastating, targeting critical systems with surgical accuracy. "Report," Thexhai shouted over the noise. "Kinetic bombardment from multiple vectors," Lieutenant Zexani called out. "Projectiles appear to be solid metal moving at near light speed. Our shields cannot stop them." The Admiral stared at the tactical display in shock. Their quantum shields were designed to deflect energy weapons and plasma bolts. They worked by creating a barrier that absorbed and redirected incoming energy. But these human weapons were not energy. They were simple chunks of metal accelerated to impossible speeds. The shields might as well have been soap bubbles. "Where are the shots coming from?" he demanded. "Unknown. I cannot detect any firing ships. The projectiles appear to be coming from empty space." Commander Veltar was coordinating damage control efforts. "Platform 7 is destroyed. Platform 15 has lost main power. Platform 3 reports hull breaches on multiple levels. Sir, whatever is attacking us is using weapons we have never encountered before." More impacts struck the station itself. The massive structure shuddered as railgun slugs punched through armor that had been thought impenetrable. Emergency force fields activated to seal hull breaches. But each hit revealed the same terrible truth. Human weapons went through hegemony defenses like they were not even there. Thexhi's mind raced to understand what was happening. How had 46 ships approached his fortress without being detected? How were they remaining invisible even while firing? The technology required seemed impossible, beyond anything in hegemony databases. "Analysis of the kinetic projectiles," he ordered. Lieutenant Zexani worked frantically at her station. Tungsten steel composite slugs, approximately 1 meter in length. Accelerated to 0.3 light speed by electromagnetic forces. No explosive warheads. The damage is purely kinetic. The Admiral felt his crystal skin grow darker as understanding began to dawn. Electromagnetic acceleration. Railgun technology. The hegemony had abandoned such primitive weapons centuries ago in favor of more elegant energy systems. But these, humans had perfected the old technology, made it deadlier than anything in the modern arsenal. "Counterfire," he commanded. "Target the coordinates where the shots are originating." The fortress's remaining weapons opened fire, sending streams of plasma and graviton pulses toward the empty space where the attacks seemed to be coming from. The energy beams lit up the darkness but hit nothing. The human ships, whatever technology they were using to remain hidden, were not where the weapons expected them to be. Captain Chen's voice cut through the chaos, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Eternus Bastion, this is your final warning. Stand down your weapons and surrender. You are completely outmatched. Continue resistance, and we will be forced to target your life support systems." Thexhi realized with growing horror that he was not fighting a battle. He was being methodically dismantled by an enemy he could not see, could not hit, and could not understand. The pride of the hegemony, the fortress that had never been threatened, was falling apart around him, and the attack had only just begun. The revelation hit Admiral Thexhi like a physical blow. The single primitive ship on his sensors was not alone. 47 human vessels had somehow approached his fortress without being detected. They had coasted through space like ghosts, invisible to the most advanced sensor systems in the galaxy. "How is this possible?" he demanded, his crystal skin flashing angry red patterns. Lieutenant Zexani was frantically adjusting her sensor arrays, trying to pierce whatever technology was hiding the human fleet. "Sir, I am detecting gravitational anomalies consistent with ship masses, but everything else reads as empty space. It is as if they are not reflecting or emitting any energy signatures at all." Another devastating impact rocked the station. Defensive. Platform 9 simply ceased to exist as a railgun slug traveling at 30% light speed tore through its structure. The tungsten steel projectile continued through the platform and struck the asteroid it was anchored to, splitting the kilometer-wide rock in half. Commander Veltar coordinated damage control teams while trying to make sense of the tactical situation. "Sir, their targeting is impossibly precise. They are hitting critical system nodes, power junctions, and weapon control centers. It is as if they have complete blueprints of our station design." Thexhi studied the damage reports with growing dread. The humans were not firing randomly. Every shot was calculated to cause maximum disruption to station operations. They knew exactly where to hit to disable weapons, cut power, and isolate sections of the fortress. They must have been scanning us for hours, he realized. While we thought they were just one primitive ship, they were gathering intelligence, on our entire defensive network. The Admiral's tactical training began to assert itself despite his shock. If the enemy had superior stealth technology, he needed to adapt quickly. Launch all fighter squadrons. Deploy sensor drones throughout the system. Use short-range active scanning to map their positions. Hangar bays across Eternus Bastion opened as hundreds of fighter craft poured into space. The small ships spread out in search patterns, their active sensors probing for the hidden human vessels. For a moment, hope flickered in Thexhi's chest. Even invisible ships had to have mass and occupy space. That hope died as the fighters began exploding. The human ships did not need to reveal themselves to target the hegemony fighters. Railgun slugs reached out from seemingly empty space, striking the small craft with perfect accuracy. Each shot was precisely calculated to account for speed, trajectory, and evasive maneuvers. The fighters lasted less than 3 minutes. Recall, all remaining fighters, Thexhi ordered, but it was too late. Of the 600 fighters launched, fewer than 50 made it back to the hangar bays. Lieutenant Zexani looked up from her console with desperation in her 4 eyes. Admiral, I am beginning to understand their stealth technology. They are not using energy shields or cloaking devices. Their hull surfaces appear to be coated with materials that absorb and scatter our sensor emissions. Instead of reflecting our scans back to us, the energy is dispersed as background radiation. Metamaterials, Commander Veltar said with grudging respect. We theorized about such technology but deemed it impractical. The computational requirements to design surfaces that could defeat all known sensor types would be enormous. The Admiral felt cold realization washing over him. These humans had not only developed theoretical technology, they had perfected it. Their ships were covered with materials specifically designed to defeat hegemony sensors. They had studied his people's capabilities and built weapons specifically to counter them. Sir, Lieutenant Zexani called out, I am detecting new contacts, small objects approaching at high speed from multiple vectors. The tactical display lit up with dozens of red dots converging on the station from all directions. These contacts were visible to sensors, moving fast enough to generate detectable energy signatures as they cut through space. Missiles? Commander Veltar asked. Negative. Size and mass characteristics suggest they are boarding pods. Thexhi felt his blood freeze. Boarding pods meant the humans intended to take his station intact. They were not content to destroy Eternus Bastion from a distance. They wanted to capture it. Activate all point defense systems, target the incoming pods. Thousands of automated defense turrets across the station's hull swiveled to track the approaching objects. Streams of plasma fire and particle beams reached out to intercept the pods before they could reach the station's hull. But once again, human technology proved superior. The boarding pods were not following ballistic trajectories. They maneuvered, in space like guided missiles, changing course to avoid defensive fire. More critically, they were moving far too fast for the point defense systems to track effectively. The turrets had been designed to stop conventional missiles and fighters, not objects traveling at significant fractions of light speed. Most of the pods slipped through the defensive fire and struck Eternus Bastion's hull with tremendous impacts. But instead of exploding, they did something worse. They drilled through the station's armor like bullets through paper and disappeared inside. Hull breaches on levels 15 through 30, reported a damage control officer. Emergency bulkheads are sealing, but we have confirmed penetration into multiple critical sections. What were in those pods? Thexhi demanded. The answer came in the form of internal alarms. Emergency lights began flashing throughout the station as something moved through the corridors. Security teams reported contact with small, fast-moving objects that did not respond to weapons fire. Sir, the pods appear to have contained autonomous combat drones. They are spreading throughout the station and interfacing with our computer systems. The Admiral watched in horror as his tactical displays began showing system failures across the fortress. The drones were not just fighting his security teams. They were hacking into station computers, taking control of critical systems, and coordinating their actions with each other. Cut all computer connections, he ordered. Go to manual control for all systems. Sir, the drones are adapting to our countermeasures faster than we can implement them. They appear to be using some form of artificial intelligence that learns and evolves in real time. HFY stared at the displays showing his mighty fortress being systematically taken apart from within. The humans had not just brought superior weapons. They had brought a form of intelligence that could outthink his best officers and adapt to any defense. Captain Chen's voice echoed through the command center once again. Admiral HFY, your defensive systems are failing. Your computer networks are compromised. Your weapons are offline. This engagement can end one of two ways. You can surrender now and your crew will be treated according to our laws of warfare. Or you can continue to resist, and we will be forced to take more aggressive action. The Admiral looked around his command center at the faces of his officers. Fear, confusion, and defeat were written clearly in their expressions. In less than 30 minutes, the greatest fortress in hegemony space had been reduced to a helpless target. "What are our options?" he asked quietly. Commander Veltar checked his status boards. "Main weapons are offline. Shields are down. We have lost contact with 60% of the station. The human drones control most of our critical systems. Can we regain control? Unknown. Their artificial intelligence is unlike anything we have encountered. It appears to be thinking faster than our technicians can respond." HFY closed his 4 eyes and tried to process what had happened. A single human ship had led him into a trap. 47 invisible vessels had destroyed his defenses without revealing themselves. Autonomous drones were taking control of his station from within. Everything he thought he knew about warfare had become obsolete in the span of half an hour. "Sir," Lieutenant Zexani said quietly, "I am receiving reports from other hegemony installations. Long-range communications are detecting similar attacks throughout our territory. The humans did not just come here, they are everywhere." The reports flooding into Eternus Bastion painted a picture of systematic collapse across the entire hegemony. Border stations, patrol fleets, and even core world defenses were all reporting the same impossible scenario. Human ships appearing from nowhere, weapons that could not be stopped, and resistance crumbling within minutes. Admiral HFY stared at the communication displays with growing disbelief. Fortress Kepler 7, which guarded the approaches to the hegemony capital, had fallen in 18 minutes. The 7th Fleet, patrolling the outer rim with 200 of the most advanced warships in space, had been destroyed without managing to damage a single human vessel. "How many ships do they have?" he asked, though he dreaded the answer. Lieutenant Zexani worked frantically to compile the incoming reports. "Based on attack patterns across our territory, we estimate they have deployed between 3,000 and 5,000 vessels. Sir, this is a full-scale invasion force." Commander Veltar examined the tactical data with professional interest, despite their desperate situation. "Admiral, observe the coordination between their attacks. Every human fleet struck at precisely the same moment across a front spanning 200 light-years. The timing required suggests they have communication technology that operates faster than light-speed signals." The Admiral felt the last of his hope drain away. Faster than light. Communication was purely theoretical. The hegemony's best scientists claimed it was impossible without creating paradoxes that would destroy causality itself. Yet somehow these humans had not only developed it, they were using it to coordinate military operations on a galactic scale. "Sir," called a technician monitoring internal sensors, "the human drones have reached the main computer core. They are attempting to access our central databases." HFY moved quickly to a security console. If the humans gained access to their central computers, they would have the locations of every hegemony world, every military installation, every secret research facility. The damage would be irreversible. "Initiate core purge protocols," he ordered. "Destroy all classified data before they can access it." The technician's fingers moved across his controls, then stopped. "Sir, I cannot access the purge system. The human drones have isolated our command pathways. The computer is not responding to our authorization codes." On the main display, security cameras showed the interior of the computer core. Dozens of small metallic drones, each no larger than a child's toy, swarmed over the quantum processing units. They moved with mechanical precision, connecting directly to data ports and communication channels, They are not destroying our computers, Thexai realized with growing horror. They are studying them. Commander Veltar enhanced the camera view. Look at their behavior patterns. They are not random. Each drone has a specific task. They are systematically downloading our entire technical database. The Admiral watched as the drones completed their work and began moving toward other critical systems. Life support, environmental controls, artificial gravity generators. One by one, essential station functions came under human control. Sir, atmospheric pressure is dropping in sections 7 through 12, reported the environmental officer. The humans are selectively shutting down life support to non-essential areas. Are they trying to kill the crew? Negative. They appear to be forcing evacuation of specific zones. Security teams report being driven back by precisely controlled atmospheric changes. No casualties, but they cannot maintain positions in affected areas. Thexai began to understand the true sophistication of the human attack. They were not trying to destroy his station or slaughter his crew. They were taking control of Eternus Bastion piece by piece, room by room, system by system. It was not conquest through destruction. It was conquest through superior knowledge and precision. Captain Chen's voice echoed through the command center again. The human captains seemed to be monitoring their communications, responding to their actions in real time. Admiral Thexai, I want you to understand something about human military doctrine. We do not fight wars the way your people do. You rely on overwhelming force and intimidation. You build massive weapons and hope your enemies will surrender rather than face destruction. We take a different approach. The Admiral found himself listening despite the situation. There was something in the human captain's voice that suggested she genuinely wanted him to understand. Humans evolved on a world where survival meant constant adaptation. Every species on our planet was trying to kill every other species. We learned that raw strength was less important than intelligence, cooperation, and the ability to learn faster than our enemies. When we developed space travel, we brought those lessons with us. Another section of the station went dark as human. Drones took control of its power systems. Security teams fell back to increasingly smaller defensive perimeters. Your weapons are more powerful than ours, Captain Chen continued. Your ships are larger. Your armor is stronger. But we have studied your technology for decades before making contact. We know exactly how your shields work, how your sensors operate, how your computers process information. We built our entire fleet specifically to counter your capabilities. Thexai felt cold understanding wash over him. They have been watching us, studying us. For how long? Commander Veltar asked. Lieutenant Zexani was analyzing the human communication patterns. Sir, based on their detailed knowledge of our systems, I estimate they have been observing hegemony space for at least 50 years. They know our technology better than we do. The human captain's voice became almost apologetic. Admiral, your people made a critical error. You assumed that because our technology appeared primitive, we were inferior. You never considered that we might have deliberately chosen different technological paths. Your energy weapons are useless against kinetic projectiles. Your sensors cannot detect materials designed to absorb electromagnetic radiation. Your computer systems have vulnerabilities that we identified and prepared to exploit. More systems fell under human control. The artificial gravity flickered as drones interfaced with the station's gravitational generators. Emergency lighting replaced normal illumination as main power was systematically redirected. They are not conquering us, Thexai said quietly. They are demonstrating their superiority. Sir? Commander Veltar looked confused. Think about it. They could have destroyed this station with their first attack. Those railgun slugs could have targeted our reactor core or life support systems. Instead, they disabled our weapons and took control of our computers. They want us alive for a reason. Captain Chen seemed to hear his words. You are correct, Admiral. We have no desire to commit genocide or rule over your people. We came here seeking peaceful trade relationships and diplomatic contact. You chose to threaten us with destruction. We responded by demonstrating why that was a poor decision. The last of the station's defensive systems went offline. Human drones had complete control of Eternus Bastion's critical functions. The proud fortress of the hegemony had become a human-controlled facility in less than 1 hour. "What do you want from us?" HFY asked, his voice carrying the weight of defeat. "Surrender your station and crew. Allow us to complete our mission of establishing diplomatic relations with civilized species in this region. Learn from this encounter and understand that humanity prefers cooperation to conquest." The Admiral looked around his command center one final time. His officers waited for orders that could not change their situation. The most powerful military installation in hegemony space had been reduced to helplessness by an enemy that treated their greatest victory as a minor inconvenience. "Open a channel to all hegemony forces," he said quietly. "Sir?" Lieutenant Zexani looked uncertain. "Open the channel." The communication system activated, broadcasting his words across the entire star system and beyond. "This is Fleet Admiral HFY of Eternus Bastion. I hereby surrender this installation and all hegemony forces under my command to the human fleet. Resistance is futile. Do not attempt rescue operations. The age of hegemony dominance is over." The silence that followed Admiral HFY's surrender broadcast seemed to stretch forever. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the command center of Eternus Bastion as human drones completed their systematic takeover of the massive fortress. The Admiral stood quietly at his command station, watching 3,000 years of hegemony supremacy come to an end. Captain Sarah Chen materialized on the main display as the humans established visual communication. She appeared to be a bipedal being with soft skin and small eyes, far less impressive physically than any of the hegemony species. Yet this unremarkable creature commanded technology that had reduced the galaxy's greatest military power to helplessness. "Admiral HFY," she said, her voice carrying what seemed like genuine respect, "I want you to know that your decision to surrender has saved thousands of lives. Your crew will be treated with dignity, according to our laws of warfare." The Admiral studied the human captain's face, trying to understand the mind behind humanity's devastating victory. "What are these laws of warfare you speak of? Rules that govern how conflicts should be conducted, protections for prisoners, civilians, and non-combatants, standards of behavior that separate warfare from mere slaughter. We call them the Geneva Conventions, though they have evolved considerably since we first developed them." Commander Veltar spoke for the first time since the surrender. "You have rules for conquest?" Captain Chen looked puzzled. "We are not conquering anyone, Commander. This was a defensive action in response to your threats against our diplomatic mission. Once we have established formal relations with your government, we will return control of this station to your people." The words hit the command center like a physical shock. Lieutenant Zexani's crystal ridges flashed confused colors as she tried to process what she had heard. "You are giving back Eternus Bastion?" "Of course. We have no desire to occupy your territory or rule over your people. We came here to establish trade relationships and diplomatic contact. Your station controls an important hyperspace junction that we need access to for our merchant vessels. Once we have negotiated proper agreements, there will be no need for military presence." Admiral HFY felt his understanding of the situation crumble and reform. "You destroyed our defenses, captured our strongest fortress, and defeated our entire fleet simply to negotiate trade agreements. We defended ourselves against unprovoked aggression," Captain Chen corrected gently. "Your ultimatum left us no choice but to demonstrate our capabilities. We hope this will convince your government that cooperation is more beneficial than hostility." Admiral walked to his viewport and stared out at the debris field where his defensive platforms had been. Human ships were now visible, their stealth systems apparently deactivated. They moved through space with casual efficiency, their crews already beginning salvage and repair operations. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. "Our species began preparing for contact with galactic civilization nearly a century ago. We have been observing this region of space for 50 years, studying your technology, your politics, your military capabilities. We hoped for peaceful first contact, but we prepared for the possibility that it might not be." Commander Veltar examined the tactical displays showing human fleet movements throughout hegemony space. your coordination across multiple star systems, your simultaneous attacks. This level of organization requires decades of preparation. Captain Chen nodded. Humanity has learned that it is better to be prepared and not need something than to need it and not be prepared. We built our fleet specifically to counter hegemony military technology. We trained our crews for years before beginning this mission. We studied your culture and psychology to understand how you would likely respond to contact. Lieutenant Zexani looked up from her console. Captain, if I may ask, how did you remain hidden from our sensors for so long? Metamaterial hull coatings, designed to absorb and scatter electromagnetic radiation across multiple spectrums. Careful use of gravity shadows and stellar interference to mask our approach routes. Most importantly, we never stayed in one place long enough for your sensors to get clear readings. The human captain paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. Your people made a fundamental error in assuming that advanced technology must follow certain patterns. You expected energy shields because that is what you developed. You expected visible ships because that is how you built them. You never considered that there might be other approaches to the same problems. Admiral Thexai turned back to face the display. What happens now? Now we begin the process of establishing formal diplomatic relations. We will contact your government and propose a series of meetings to discuss trade agreements, territorial boundaries, and mutual cooperation. Your crew will be released once we have confirmation that no rescue attempts are being planned. And if our government refuses to negotiate? Captain Chen's expression became serious. Admiral, in the past hour, human forces have demonstrated their capability to neutralize every major military installation in hegemony space. Your government will negotiate because the alternative is the complete collapse of their defensive capabilities. The Admiral felt the weight of that truth. The hegemony's power had always been built on military superiority. They ruled through fear and overwhelming force. But that same military strength had been rendered obsolete by an enemy they had never seen coming. Captain, he said quietly, may I ask what your people ultimately want from this region of space? Trade routes to connect our colonies, access to rare materials that are common in this sector, diplomatic relations with civilized species, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, the same things that most spacefaring species want. You have the power to simply take whatever you want. Taking things by force creates enemies and breeds resentment. Trading for them creates partners and mutual benefit. Humans learned long ago that cooperation is more profitable than conquest. Commander Veltar looked up from his damage control reports. Captain, our sensors are detecting human engineering teams moving throughout the station. What are they doing? Repairing the damage from our attack and installing new security systems. We want to return Eternus Bastion in better condition than we found it. Consider it a gesture of good faith. Admiral Thexai watched the tactical displays showing human work crews spread throughout his fortress. They moved with the same casual efficiency that had characterized their military assault. To them, conquering the galaxy's most powerful military installation was apparently just another day's work. Captain Chen, he said finally, what should I tell my government about humanity? The human captain smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both reassuring and terrifying. Tell them that Earth's children have come to the stars. Tell them that we prefer friendship to conquest, but we are very good at both. Tell them that the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. The communication ended, leaving the command center in thoughtful silence. Outside the viewport, human ships continued their work with mechanical precision. The age of hegemony dominance was over, ended not by a superior empire seeking conquest, but by a species that had simply moved an inconvenient obstacle out of their path. Admiral Thexai realized that he was witnessing the birth of a new galactic order. The humans had not come to destroy or rule. They had come to trade, to explore, to build something better than what existed before. But they had also demonstrated that anyone who stood in their way would be removed with ruthless efficiency. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 days later, the first human merchant vessels began arriving at Eternus Bastion, their cargo holds filled with goods from distant Earth colonies. The transition to the new order had begun, and it was far more peaceful than anyone had dared to hope.